All right, let's dig into the law here with Georgia State University law professor Clark Cunningham and Jamil Jaffer, former associate counsel to President George W. Bush. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining. You now have three co-defendants saying in court filings that they were following the direction of then President Trump. Now, this is part of an argument to push their cases to a federal court. Of course, Trump, a federal official at the time. But do those arguments saying, hey, he had this plan, he told us to carry it out. Is that dangerous for Trump himself?
I mean, I think so. I think it's dangerous in a couple of ways. One, it puts the responsibility right back on him. The co-defendants are now starting to turn on one another, blame one another, assert responsibility. On top of that, they're also saying they were federal officials at some level, that he was acting in his capacity as president. Of course, this is about the election, though. He might make the same argument if he were trying to remove it, which he's not, to federal court. Mark Meadows, though, his chief of staff, said the same thing.
Clark, so I've been told that the DA, Fani Willis, has an incentive here to try to wrap up some of these cases before trial, to perhaps get some folks to plea before trial. Does the fact that some of them are saying, hey, Trump did this, does that offer an opportunity for her to do just that? And if she's able to do that, what dangers does that pose for the president's own prosecution here?
Well, it seems to me that there are three of the so-called fake electors that are in the indictment. And we now have them, Hampton, Stills, and Schaefer. And it seems to me that they're, in effect, already cooperating with the district attorney. They should have taken a plea deal earlier, as their fellow electors did. Because each of them are saying exactly what the district attorney wants to hear them say, which is, we were directed by President Trump. We were directed by him. We were following his direction. So it makes their arguably illegal acts his responsibility. So, yeah, this is very bad for the former president, in my opinion.
And as you say, you have folks who have already pled in advance, in effect, to that. Last night, we saw the president leave, and he did speak to the press, Jamil Jaffer, and he did speak to a television show, and we might expect him to do similar going forward. As you're aware, the judge has put restrictions on the former president, said you cannot attack witnesses in this case, you cannot attack public officials involved, intimidate them, etc. Didn't seem to do that last night, but how close did he come to the line, and who's watching?
Well, look, you know that Donald Trump has a hard time keeping his mouth shut generally, right? But when it comes to his own personal liability potentially here, right, he's going to lash out. He can't help himself, right? Yeah. He did it on Twitter just a few weeks ago, right? That's what caused the judge to put this order in place. It's what's caused other judges to put orders against him in place as well. He's going to have a very hard time if he continues to talk to the media, as he's going to restrain himself from going after witnesses, the public officials involved. It's going to be very difficult. Now, maybe, he's going to find a way to do it. I'm pretty skeptical.
Clark, you know Georgia pretty well, how it operates there. You do have one trial set to begin on October 23rd, but that's because Kenneth Chesebro, he's requested a speedy trial. The others are certainly not, and might be, like Trump, requesting the opposite of that. They want to drag this out as long as possible. If you were a betting man, knowing how this operates, is Trump's trial in this Georgia case likely to happen before the election?
Before the election, I think there's a very good chance of that. I think it's not beyond the realm of possibility that Donald Trump will be on trial here in Fulton County by October 23rd. That's exactly what the district attorney wants to have happen, and it could happen.
Do you, Jamil, see that as likely as well?
I think Donald Trump is going to try to make it as hard as possible, right? We've seen other defendants and their lawyers actually say on TV they don't want a speedy trial, right? It's very unusual for a defendant to not want a speedy trial, to want to delay it. In this case, the president and his colleagues, his co-defendants, see some advantage, with the exception of obviously Kenneth Chesebro. So we'll see what happens. I think that Chesebro's trial will put a lot of pressure on the other defendants, because they're going to be called out, right? They're going to look likely to cut deals. The more pressure there is, the harder it is for the president to avoid it. That being said, I'm skeptical this trial goes forward, but, Professor would know better than I would for Georgia law.
Well, we'll be watching. The other big question, as you know, Clark Cunningham, is not the timing, but the place, right? And you have Meadows and others trying to move this to federal court. We've had lawyers on our set before say it's unlikely they win that argument. What's your view?
I think that the district attorney is making a very powerful argument against the Mark Meadows attempt to move his case to federal court. We're going to hear that on Monday. With luck, we'll hear Mark Meadows on the witness stand under oath being cross-examined, which will make Monday really a remarkable event. But, you know, the district attorney makes a really good point, which is that everything that Mark Meadows is accused of doing, she says, was actually illegal under federal law, because it's illegal for a federal employee to use their official position to try to influence an election. And his whole argument is everything he did as chief of staff. Well, if that's true, he was breaking federal law. It's a really strong argument.
Notable. Clark Cunningham, Jamil Jaffer, thanks so much. I think this is probably not the last time we discuss.
As always, great to be with you.